Central Governor calls for assistance in flood-affected areas. Collapsed bridge in Vanimo forces villagers to travel by sea. And a lead commentator for the 91 games reflects on his experience.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
This is Tuesday's news. Good evening and welcome. The constant rain over the past couple of days has resulted in flooding around Port Moresby and surrounding areas. EMTV News visited a number of locations today to see the extent of damages caused by the deluge. EMTV's Sarah Abong with this report.
This is what Morata 1 looked like when we arrived this morning. Houses are underwater and residents here say they have been up all night evacuating. This is Stanley's house and he had to evacuate his family in the early hours of this morning because floodwaters reached his home. His neighbors who also share the same fate say the same is happening in Morata 2 and 3. Anna says she has lived here for over 20 years but has never experienced such a flood. She and almost all of the people we spoke to say this flooding of their community is a result of the road construction meters away from where they live.
Something no kat one la clothes me gisim all get something a Mr. Vandanit lawara na mi come on behalf long all piginini na all mama blow me pla long hablo mosquito straight here. All piginini mama I'm all get I'm only run out one time nothing.
Jonathan is the ward councillor for Ward 10 here in Morata.
I've only been working out, no working good. Only thing I'm good is for water. Water I'm big for river, I say come to Mosby. He come to hospital. All around the city, I say come down. One blood road, also say come and say go. Escape route I'm this blood. Now only put him lily I'm koya. Only put him this right. I'm in on nap. In on nap, so this is what I'm. He come past stuck here, and we go back and damage him or something.
It is estimated that over 20 houses ranging from small to medium low cost have been affected by this flood. But this flood may have a more lasting impact here health-wise. Because there is no sewage system here in Morata, most of the homes use pit toilets. Most of these pit toilets are now underwater and the sewage is being washed into the floodwaters where unsuspecting children are playing. Around Port Moresby City, a busy street was partially blocked because of landslide this morning, more effects of continuous rain. A few minutes outside Port Moresby on Magi Highway, the Seboria Creek has burst its banks. This has halted much of the traffic flow and some were still stranded there when we arrived.
So the time, this time of the year, anytime when it rains, we have the same problem. That culvert bridge in there, it is a headache. The Works and Supplies spend a lot of money on this bridge that I know. Our members, Rigo member, Bao member, and the governor and all these guys, though they travel in this road, I do not know whether they come this time of the season. It is a link, so we should be given priority to maybe next month when it doesn't rain, cut it open, put a bridge over it.
In the opposite direction, Laloki River has also burst its banks, flooding the entrance into the Goldie River training depot, a lot of the houses here and the nearby Nari station. This was the scene when EMTV arrived. These pictures are from Adventure Park in 14 Mile, outside of Port Moresby, just opposite the driveway into the Pacific Adventist University. Most of its facilities and the main road are completely submerged. Today is the second whole day of continuous downpour this week in NCD and the Central Province, and water levels continue to rise. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
PNG National Weather Service Assistant Director Jimmy Gomoga announced that a tropical cyclone could develop in the coastal areas of Western Province to Central Province. Now, this is due to the tropical low in the northwest Coral Sea, expected to continue moving in a general westwards direction, reaching cyclone strength on Wednesday, and that's actually tomorrow. Areas that have heavy rains may lead to flooding in parts of southern region. People of Western and Central Province are advised not to go out to sea. Central Province Governor Kila Hauda has called on the national government to assist the Central Province in the flooding that has already affected every corner of the province. Governor Hauda urged all Central Province to remain calm as they will start delivering needed assistance tomorrow.
Governor Hauda, in an immediate press conference this afternoon, called on the national government to assist with the relief of the Central Province people affected by the heavy downpour.
Looking forward to the government, to the national government, and seeking national government in the disaster to come to my aid.
The governor says his district administrators are working around the clock to compile a full report of the affected areas and will roll out assistance starting tomorrow.
This is why I want to say again, I have instructed the disaster office through the provincial administrator and also the district offices to attend to these issues quickly and report to us so that we can take actions and see our national disaster office to be able to help us as much as possible.
Provincial Disaster Coordinator Tuma Ipau blames the sudden bad weather on climate change. Ipau says the Central Disaster Office is also working on a report which will have all the costings of damages caused by the flood to present to the governor at week's end.
You can see it's unpredictable. The climate change is having a cause of effect in this province now. We are expecting things that have not happened at that time before.
Meanwhile, the governor has called on his people to remain calm and wait for assistance. Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
Downder Bridge, one of the oldest bridges in the west coast of Vanimo, collapsed this morning. This is the second time the bridge has collapsed in the last 2 years due to heavy rains. The damaged bridge has affected thousands living along the coastal villages of Lido, Waromo, Yako, Musu and the border village of Wutung. Villagers have been forced to travel by boat to Vanimo town, which is more expensive than road. It has also cut off Vanimo town from the international border. The people are calling on the national government to build more permanent bridges and do away with log bridges that are easily damaged by heavy rains. The Judicial Legal Services Commission today swore in an Australian retired judge, Justice Terence Higgins, as a new National and Supreme Court judge. He will be posted to Kokopo and serve until his retirement in 2018. The swearing-in took place at the Government House and was witnessed by Governor-General Sir Michael Ogier and Chief Justice Sir Salamo Injia.
Justice Terence Higgins' appointment brings the total number of judges of the National and Supreme Courts to 33. He is the most senior retired non-citizen judge and the 6th non-citizen judge serving the bench in PNG. Prior to his appointment, he served as the Chief Justice of the Australian Capital Territory for 10 years and retired in September 2012.
What I regard as a very important and indeed very useful task in contributing to the rule of law in Papua New Guinea and to the welfare of the people of this independent state.
Sir Salamo Injia says the judiciary is embarking on a program to recruit experienced lawyers and former judges of Commonwealth jurisdiction to serve in PNG. He said the judiciary stands to gain immensely from his experience. He will be based out of Kokopo as its 3rd resident judge to fill the gap of an experienced civil judge in the New Guinea Islands.
The first of such appointments of retired judges from other common law jurisdictions.
Today, in front of the Governor-General, Sir Michael Ogier, he signed the documents. Meanwhile, Sir Salamo said seats are open for citizens and non-citizens to apply for a judiciary post. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Public Enterprise and State Investments Minister and Member for Kavieng, Ben Maika, and Public Service Minister and Member for Aba, Sir Pukatemu, have been referred to the Public Prosecutor for alleged misconduct in office. The Ombudsman Commission, in a statement today, said it has investigated the alleged misconduct which arose from their failure to uphold duties. As required by the law, the Commission has notified the ministers of its intention to refer the matter to the Public Prosecutor. The OC said the public prosecutor will make its own deliberation under Section 177(1)(b) of the Constitution. OC says the referrals are in the hands of the public prosecutor, who has the discretion to bring or decline the proceedings under the Leadership Code for alleged misconduct in office. Day 2 of the PNG Women's Forum was focused on business and partnerships. Issues were raised regarding the current small to medium enterprise or the SME policy, with women concerned that it did not adequately cover the real struggles that women face. President of the PNG Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Avia Koisen, said the current SME policy does not address issues like the barriers women face when going into business from a grassroots level.
The forum engaged the women in a lively conversation during a panel discussion on what is being done to increase financial literacy for women and to increase opportunities for them to own and operate businesses in PNG. Participants also talked about how the SME policy will improve the business climate for women. President of the PNG Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Avia Koisen, said the chamber discussed the policy and found it dissatisfactory in terms of catering for the interest of small and medium entrepreneurs for women's businesses.
The PNG Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry did a roundtable discussion on it, and basically we found that in the SME policy, with regard to women, the category that covered women was only about 1/3 of a page, and it was inclusive of women, youth and the disabled. So, and in a nutshell, there was about 20 sentences there that basically covered everybody all at once. So we felt that it was very dissatisfactory.
Ms. Koisen said the chamber viewed the document as not catering at all for the interest of women SMEs, especially when it comes to addressing the grassroots and the cultural barriers for women intending to enter into business. She said in order to promote a business and economic climate for women, these are the issues that must be included as a way forward. The chamber has written to the Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry detailing their findings of the critical analysis. Asked what feedback was given, she said,
"Yeah, Delhi, sorry, we need to say that there has been no response from the Minister. We are supposed to have a representative this morning from the Trade and Industry Department, but there has been no attendance as well. So, yeah, that's all I can say."
Ms. Koisen said the policy document also failed to address how SMEs can access finance and how SMEs can get access to markets. She said this must be addressed as they are the biggest issues. In the meantime, the PNG Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry has this year been asked by the Commonwealth Business Network in the UK to be affiliated to them. PNG is the 56th country to join the Commonwealth Business Network and the first in the Pacific. Advantages of this include the sharing of information and a unique opportunity to learn from other Commonwealth countries as well. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
The Asia-Pacific Economic Corporation is one of the most dynamic economies in the world, and Papua New Guinea has been a member of the APEC since 1993. During the Women's Forum today, participants discussed how women in PNG could use the 2018 APEC Summit to increase their access to markets. A panel discussion sought answers to questions like how can the PNG-hosted APEC events create opportunities for women to sell their products?
PNG will be hosting the APEC Summit in 2018. PNG will also be co-hosting with the Philippines the Policy Partnership on Women and the Economy in Port Moresby in May this year. In light of these prestigious events, the focus of discussions was on using APEC to increase access to market for women. On the panel today were a range of speakers representing the Business Council of PNG, Doveri Henao, Senior Official for PNG to APEC, Ivan Pomaleo, PNG Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Janet Sios, and Win IT Consultancy, Winifred Amini. Mr. Henao said business literacy was vital in knowing one's business. He said it was important for businesses to know information such as their market placements, product development, and where one connects in the supply chain. Mrs. Sios said from her experience with the previous APEC meeting, the issue for many businesses, including women's businesses, was developing products into a marketable level. Co-founder of Win IT consultancy Winifred Amini said P&G does not have a strong ecosystem that is open to new innovations and highlighted the need for more to be done to support the birth of businesses and industries. Mr. Pomaleo said the conversation of APEC is connectivity and trade, and that the opportunities that come with it are massive. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
And in more news to come after the break, doctors in Goroka threaten strike action. Also, construction of a new coffee mill in Morobe and a European chocolate company looking to do business in Papua New Guinea. Stay with us. Good to have you back with the news. Reports from Goroka say doctors from the Goroka General Hospital are threatening to walk off their jobs by Thursday if the Health Minister doesn't come back with a response on allegations of mismanagement within the hospital administration. This is the latest in a series of ongoing twists in the controversy surrounding the Goroka Hospital. Doctors and nurses claim the mismanagement within the hospital has seriously affected patient care and other functions in the hospital. A Morobe coffee cooperative that gained popularity because of its people-driven approach to quality farming and exports is moving to new heights with construction of its new coffee mill beginning tomorrow. The Boana-based Neknasi Coffee Cooperative began with 200 farmers who were looking for a means of income to pay for their children's education. The new coffee mill will be at Erap past Nazap Airport.
Neknasi is a story that has never failed to inspire. It started with Mong Bungun, the elementary school teacher who was looking for a way to help parents pay for their children's school fees. They started a new cooperative, built a road, bought vehicles, and now
by building coffee mill. So straight after this groundbreaking, where Prime Minister by officiate longen, and now by this program by construction block coffee mill by start.
Michael Toliman, now the general manager of Neknasi, began helping the cooperative as a coffee industry extension officer. He then left his job and worked unpaid with farmers in the cooperative for a few years before Neknasi started to make its own money. Tomorrow, Neknasi will announce the start of construction on the much talked about coffee mill. It will give this landowner-producer/exporter an edge over other producers.
This is now when we place in Neknasi, long stage where we can assure and guarantee the market that all coffee blooming along a rural place is the best in the world, and it gives the marketing brand long coffee bloom Morobe.
This success story has traveled far and wide in Papua New Guinea. Neknasi has become a reference point, an example for many coffee producers in Menyamia, Kabum and other parts of Morobe. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Ley.
France Ambassador to PNG, Pascal Maubert, says the tuna industry in PNG has the potential to attract French investors. However, he says reported cases of illegal fishing may turn them away. Ambassador Maubert says French companies have shown interest, but they're still negotiating.
PNG is one of the main suppliers of tuna to the European countries. However, illegal fishing and poor processing can affect the trade relationship. According to French ambassador to PNG, Pascal Maubert, some French companies have shown interest in developing tuna fishing and processing in PNG. But he says France is dedicated to quality, and with reports of illegal and overfishing happening in PNG waters, it may send a wrong signal to them.
First, that some investors are interested, some French investors are interested in investing in that field in PNG. We are also interested, and it's more the job of the EU, to have a look at the framework, the legal framework, and the real conditions of fishery here.
PNG Ambassador to Belgium, Joshua Kalinoy, says PNG has many resources that Europeans are interested in, but it has to be processed with the highest quality. However, he says he was not aware of any European companies expressing their interest through the PNG embassy in Brussels.
Our area is continental Europe, and I have not heard of any continental European companies who are interested in that area.
Reports of illegal fishing are putting a strain on the tuna stock in PNG waters. Despite regulations being put in place, effective monitoring is still lacking. Quinton Alomp, National EMTV News.
A European chocolate company is showing interest in investing in PNG's cocoa industry. The Belgian chocolate group is on a fact-finding mission to look at investment opportunities and samples of PNG cocoa. Managing Director Mark Powell says the company is importing PNG cocoa to make chocolates, which is then exported to 80 countries worldwide.
The managing director of the Belgian chocolate group, Mark Powels, is among a group of business people from Europe, particularly Belgium and Netherlands, that is on a fact-finding mission to PNG. Mr. Powels owns the biggest chocolate company in Belgium, which is known for its high-quality products. Some of its famous Belgian branded chocolates are famous in more than 80 countries, and he is hoping to integrate PNG cocoa in the line of production.
We are using cocoa to make our chocolates, so we hope to find good cocoa here and in the future. And Belgian chocolate is very famous, and I hope that we can integrate also the Papua New Guinea cocoa in our chocolate.
They are visiting PNG upon invitation from PNG Ambassador to Belgium, Joshua Kalinoy.
This is the first time since the establishment of the embassy in Brussels in 1976 that the state agencies have worked together with the Department of Foreign Affairs and the embassy in Brussels to bring this high-level mission.
Speaking at a dinner at Parliament House last night, IPBC Chairman Paul Nero said the PNG and European countries' connection is taking shape and that Europeans can assist PNG in its development agendas.
I assure you that your investment will be safe and secure under the current foreign investment regime under the current government.
The visiting team will visit Kavieng to look at its cocoa plantations before departing. Quinton Alomp, National EMTV News.
The national government's free education policy has its advantages and disadvantages. Giving every child in the country the opportunity to education is one advantage. However, the country is lacking infrastructure to cater for every child in Papua New Guinea.
The national government's free education service, the first in the country's 40 years, is seen as the highest achievement of the O'Neill Dion government over the last 5 years. It has given every child in the country an opportunity for a better education and a bright future. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, in his recent visit to the Southern Highlands province, said the government will continue this service for the next 2 years. However, he made it clear that the country still needs more infrastructure to cater for the increasing population of children.
And by him working strong yet, there's a kind of good policy where I'm saving millions of our kids. Hundreds or thousands, millions of our kids.
The Prime Minister says the national government is planning for bigger things ahead. This includes building more classrooms and increasing the capacity for all tertiary institutions in the country.
Next 4 or 5 years, by building infrastructure, or more classrooms, more teachers' houses, more universities, more technical colleges, because that's the work I'm starting now also.
The Prime Minister says the country needs a stable government to deliver these services. Assuring the Prime Minister, Finance Minister James Marape said the country is financially stable and can deliver these services. Marape says it is up to every district and provincial government to manage their funds properly.
Government must be now leadership, Prime Minister, it money na like Tromacam, state district, provinces, LLG. Money not absurd, that's all passing by me all man Mary, but sorting money.
The Finance Minister says the national government will continue to assist districts in Papua New Guinea to help deliver services more effectively. Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
And now we check out the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.3775 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.37, 0.4780 Australian dollars, 0.3373 euro, and 44.57 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed the day lower, copper closed the day unchanged, while crude oil and palm oil closed lower and copper closed the day higher. And lastly, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 139 points higher, the ASX closed at 3 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 1 point higher. Among local stories coming up after the break, police operations in Porgera and evicted settlers struggling in Morobe province. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to National EMTV News. National Housing Corporation Managing Director John Dege says he was poorly advised to effect the evicting of 4 tenants of a residential flat at Tokarara late last month. He claims some NHC officers have received bribes to facilitate the eviction, providing him with poor advice. The tenancy agreement issued to the new tenants has the official signature of Mr. Dege on it, but he says he did not sign it. Mr. Dege says he will get to the bottom of this and deal with those responsible. Police in Porgera, with assistance from the Joint Security Forces involved in the call-out operations, have arrested a police reservist for inciting a riot and assaulting hospital staff recently. According to reports from the Provincial Police Commander, the incident occurred at the Payam Police Barracks when the suspect's dog attacked 2 boys. The boys then threw a stick at the dog but accidentally hit the policeman's daughter. This resulted in them being bashed up and rushed to Payam Hospital. Relatives of the boys then retaliated, and the aftermath led to a furious chain reaction.
With the support from the Joint Special Forces from the call-out operations in the Porgera Valley, several arrests have been made in the area. In an interview with Provincial Police Commander George Kakas, he said so far there's been progress to maintain peace in the area.
Partial investigation, both sides of the story will be told, who was on the wrong or who was on the right. We cannot take any action until we get down to the truth. The facts have to be uncovered.
Since the Payam Hospital incident, PPC Kaka says police have arrested a suspect who is a police reservist. As firearms were used against the joint forces, police raided and bent down traditional bush material houses in search of the firearms.
It was done by police. Immediately after I got the preliminary report, I suspended the police station commander and 3 other officers who were involved in the alleged incident. Basically, I cannot delve much into the actual incident because it's under investigation now. But all I can say is, yes, there were a couple of houses burnt. 1 or 2 vehicles were also destroyed in the fire, and several people were injured and hospitalized. And I can say that yes, we as a command here are not turning blind eye on such police actions. There's a public call for police to be more restrained in their actions when attending to complaints. And this is such an incident where I will not sit back and allow police to go and take the law into their own hands.
The suspect has been detained by police while another 2 suspects, a policeman and his wife, are evading police arrest. Police in Enga are appealing to the suspects to surrender while police conduct proper investigations. Bridget Komatep, National EMTV News.
Lay's evicted Limki settlers continue to live in fear following evictions on Friday. From the 530 that we evicted, less than 100 have remained in the area, living in makeshift homes. Families say food and water remain the biggest challenge for them.
It's day 5 after the Limki eviction, and families here are slowly starting to rebuild their lives. Kimsi Biba from Morobe has lived here all her life. She and her mother are now living in a makeshift kitchen after their house was torn down on Friday.
Porque coconuts come down, I think mamare somiplasas kisi rainwater. So na matlo waswas kisi wara cook chomiplas tapcho.
About 10 meters away, another family is cooking their meal. Nube Liko, a husband and children, are now using their remaining utensils. The eviction has also affected her children's education. She is now left with less food and water for cooking.
Mipla kirap nunggu na iwi kambung mipla stop mipla hangere nombot. Opanana stop antap lo tiwa okatim kanda doja brukim longe mipla kisim lo ground mipla kamku kai. Noga tuwe lo kisi wara, noga we lo kisi kai, noga we lo kisi mani so mipla kisim lo banana lo ground mipla ku kai. Doja na olman kam katim lo knife.
Pauline Mauri is another evicted settler. She and her husband lives 10 blocks away from Nube. Her concern is her children's education and a means of making ends meet. Before the eviction, she and her husband owned a permanent house and rent rooms out to tenants. But this income source was destroyed in just days.
Kai no got option lo painim kai. So mi plagat money mi plak sim rice lo store no got hard house stop mi pla settle good but mi pla painim kai na this now kan something no some come up distraction and take place and mi pla no walk to block lo sim walk na for some days and affect mi pla until mi pla minusai bam settle down no one time okay no sina bam think to lo go back lo walk by right.
The eviction saw 72 houses destroyed and 535 people displaced. These 3 families are now living in fear. The food and water supply is running out, and many sleep out in the open at night, only to face the same challenges come tomorrow. Takla Gunga, National EMTV News, Leh.
A woman who was featured in February last year on MTV's Talk Picture program after she was displaced during a clash at Leh's Limki settlement was also evicted on Friday. Seva Eric and her 3 children are homeless and face conditions similar to when their home was razed during a clash. Seva is homeless after evictions on Friday by Limki's landowner John Nandang, who has freed up the land for development.
These pictures were taken on February last year. Seva Eric was collecting water at nearby Bumbu River after her home was destroyed during fights at Limki settlement. She and many others were rebuilding their lives after moving out from a care center. Today, Seva and her young family are homeless again because their home was destroyed. They have been camping on site since Friday's eviction.
Now mi pla faul ban pla ko stop lo map now because drum lo mi pla gata something lo simwara na ku kai gayem bagarapu.
Limki's traditional landowner John Nadang said on Friday that he has titles to the land and can remove the settlers. He said he wants to reclaim back his land after continuous law and order problems that include several killings.
So it is a law and order situation right now in the face now. It is not an eviction issue. It is a law and order situation. Now I'd like to thank the police for what they're doing now.
The Ahi landowner explained during the evictions that he was taking back land to develop into real estate.
It's about time that we build affordable house for our young generation who are...
It comes when middle-income earning Papua New Guineans search for affordable housing amidst the high cost of living in Leh City, and those with land are fast looking to invest into property development. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Leh.
And Trukai Sports is coming up next, and as we move closer to the Pacific Games, preparations for television coverage heightens up as well. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Martin Larry, production manager of the host broadcast for the 2015 Pacific Games, says his team is now in the final technical stages of preparations. Martin has a wealth of experience with coverage of multi-sport events. The host broadcast will be in charge of the multilateral coverage shared with all television rights holders.
Everything has progressed. We're now getting down to the real nuts and bolts of filling in the final sort of names on staff lists and what have you. We've got our 10, possibly 11 mobile units secure, so we can do multiple live feeds still from the different venues, bringing it all back to the IBC venue and turning around a real high quality set of programs from there. And now we're at it feels real actually now.
Sports personality and lead commentator for the 2015 Pacific Games, Brendan Telfer, has regarded this year's Games as one of the most prestigious events for Papua New Guinea. In an interview with EMTV, Brendan reflected on his experience from the 1991 Games and says this year will be a big year for the athletes and the host nation.
The 1991 Pacific Games was a testament for the sports fraternity in Papua New Guinea. Records were made and some of Papua New Guinea's biggest sporting icons in history were identified.
It's 70 minutes to go. Papua New Guinea is going to be 1, 2, 3. Sumu Bama, Taka and Tuna, they're coming down with 20 minutes to go. Here comes Bama Duama, but it's Sumu Bama going to take the gold medal. Taka and Tuna second, Bama Duama.
Brendan Telfer, a commentator and sports personality, will be leading the commentating crew, working alongside Martin Perry, production manager of the host broadcast. Telfer, who has been involved with several Pacific Games and being a testimony to the 1991 Games, says the Games here in Port Moresby may be one of the biggest games ever, given the country's diversity.
It's the culture, it's the people, it's Papua New Guinea, and you've got an incredible story to tell. And I'm really looking forward to working with you guys to tell that story, to reveal to the world the great mystery of Papua New Guinea for many people in Australia. And it's fantastic through NITV now that we've got Mark and his crew up here, so that eyes in Australia, all over Australia, will be seeing Papua New Guinea.
He says the Games will encapsulate Papua New Guinea's colour for what it is known for.
It's going to be a great masterpiece for Papua New Guinea, and hopefully sort of can define where the game should be at going forward. It's going to be very, very exciting, and I'm absolutely rapt to be back here again. It is very thrilling.
Working alongside Brendan will be commentators from around the Pacific who will be familiar with the Pacific Games background, as well as Mark Ella, former rugby union great and program manager of the National Indigenous Television. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Australian broadcaster National Indigenous Television has become one of the rights holders for the 2015 Pacific Games. NITV will have exclusive broadcast rights for free air for free terrestrial broadcasts in Australia through NITV and SBS, as well as non-exclusive online rights within Australia. Mark Ella, NITV program manager, will be in Port Moresby for the duration of the Games.
Yeah, this is the first time that the Pacific Games will be shown in Australia, and I'm delighted that NITV has secured those rights. So obviously we went free to air in December 2012, so we've got the potential to reach an audience of 12 million people right across the country. Obviously we've got an affiliation with the Pacific and our Indigenous culture.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Good to have you back with Trukai Sports. The sports competition scheduled for the Port Moresby 2015 Pacific Games will be finalised by the end of the week, following the second All of Sports meeting recently. This follows the first meeting held in February last year, where the delegates gave feedback on the work required to move forward in delivering each sport at the July Games.
Technical delegates representing the International Federation of each of the 28 sports that will be staged during the Pacific Games were in Port Moresby for the second All of Sports meeting. Games Organizing Committee sports manager Ian Liver said they achieved one of the main objectives during the meet, which was to finalize the sports competition schedule. The Pacific Games is all about setting benchmarks. This meeting makes PNG the first host country to involve technical delegates from all the 28 sporting federations to help plan the sporting competitions. Games Organizing Committee Chief Executive Officer Peter Stewart said the meet was crucial to help them progress with the preparation toward the successful delivery of the Games. Technical delegates play an important role in ensuring each sport meets compliance with rules and regulations, and he was pleased with the outcome of the meet. The All of Sports meeting was used as an opportunity for the Games Organizing Committee to give an update to the technical officials regarding the planning and preparations of the Games so far. Dion Kombeng, National EMTV Sports.
Over to soccer, and the Papua New Guinea women's national team have covered a lot of ground since returning to action following last year's OFC Women's Nations Cup. They made their international debut outside of Oceania as a build-up for the Pacific Games and Olympic qualifiers. The side kicked off their return to the international stage with a two-match series against Singapore, where they opened with a scoreless draw before earning a 5-0 victory in their second match against Thailand.
Next up are 3 matches against Thailand, ranked 31st in the world to Papua New Guinea's 48th, a ranking achieved after making an impressive 85-place leap up the table in the most recent women's ranking release. Papua New Guinea have been inactive since the OFC Women's Nations Cup in October, and returning coach Gareth Phillips says the fact the side is on track is obvious from the different results between Match 1 and Match 2. Between finishing runners-up to New Zealand in Kokopo and heading off on their tour of Southeast Asia, Phillips has made 9 changes to the squad, a decision he says relates to the bigger picture. With 2 more matches against Thailand remaining, Phillips is realistic about his side's chances, with the focus being on the Pacific Games and assessing new talent. He also believes the team is not yet at Nations Cup level. The expectations for the team are clear: gain an improved knowledge of how we play and to reconfirm clear objectives leading up to the Pacific Games and potentially an Olympic Games playoff. After playing their first match against Thailand on Sunday, Papua New Guinea have 2 games remaining against their opponents on the 11th and 14th of March before they return to home soil, where they will continue building for the 2015 Pacific Games. Jeremy Moggy, National, EMTV Sports.
And that wraps up our sporting segment tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned for that.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A quick look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in southern region, Port Moresby, Darra and Karama, to look forward to squally weather, including showers and rain. In Momase, showers and rain expected in Ley City. In the New Guinea Islands, showers plus rain included in all centres. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres cloudy weather with showers and rain. Now, before we go, quickly recapping our top stories again tonight. Central Governor calls for assistance in flood-affected areas. Also, collapsed bridge in Vanimo forced villagers to travel by sea. And a lead commentator for the 91 Pacific Games reflects on his experiences. And that ends the bulletin this Tuesday. From the news team, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.